Heads up, this video includes mild mechanic and story spoilers for multiple Xenoblade Chronicles games, and hints at things that aren't outright stated but heavily implied. Tread carefully. This is Challenger Approaching, where we take a character who isn't playable in Smash Bros. Yet and go deep into detail on how they could work if they got in for real. And I know what you're probably thinking. Wait, just Mio? Where's Noah? You're not splitting them up, are you? Well, there are multiple ways Smash could handle a Xenoblade 3 newcomer, including having only one playable. So I've given both their own videos. Noah earlier this year, Mio now, designed in a way that they could also fit together. And this time, it's Mio's turn. So let's see how this unusual protagonist and her equally unusual weaponry could stand out. Mio! Mio is, well, the spoiler-free answer is, she is one of countless soldiers inhabiting the world of Ionios, set in the future of the first two numbered Xenoblade titles, in which their worlds have somehow merged together. Like nearly everyone in her home nation of Agnes, Mio was trained from a very young age to wage war against the enemy nation of Kevis. The very few who fight and survive for a full 10 years, or terms, are rewarded with a special ceremony called homecoming, in which they get to die peacefully and honorably instead of violently. Yeesh. Mio herself had a special role amidst all of this. As an off-seer, she underwent special musical training to play a flute melody that allowed each battle's many, many fallen soldiers to rest in peace. Ever familiar with the death that permeated her world, it weighed on her mind constantly, yearning to find a way to end the endless cycle of war and find a path that let everyone live. A dream that became possible one night when a mission her assigned colony was enlisted into went off the rails. Suddenly, Mio, two of her closest companions, and 3 soldiers of their sworn enemy Kevis were given a strange power that both inexorably connected them and drove them to join forces in order to survive. But maybe, just maybe, this newfound power would let them finally bring about peace. And with no time to lose, as Mio was nearing the end of her final term, with only 3 months of her lifespan left. As you can see, this is a complex and tragic character with a lot going on. Mio's quiet determination befits someone literally born to fight. In fact, she initially resented being assigned the role of off-seer, though she later found purpose in it. Underneath that strength, though, lies a kind, selfless heart and a desire to find solutions where everyone can be happy. All shown through her interactions with her friends and her budding relationship with Noah, with the pair growing from unsteady allies to friends to something more. There's a reason why everyone ships these two. Which is relevant for us, because as long as Smash 6 happens within the next few years, there's a very good chance for a Xenoblade 3 newcomer. But since we have 2 main protagonists with near equal billing who are so closely interlinked, narrowing down who and how is complicated. Could Mio end up playable with Noah cheering from the sidelines, or vice versa? Or has Xenoblade grown enough to justify 2 newcomers in one game? With so many different choices, I thought it best to give each their own time in the spotlight. So let's point it here now and ask, how can Mio fight in Smash? Appearance-wise, Mio works really well as is. She can step right into Smash with her signature Zephyr-class outfit, as it's already designed with modern hardware power and aesthetic sensibilities in mind. She'd also bring over her personal blade, a pair of sharp-edged ring weapons called the Dual Moon Blades that she can summon and dematerialize at will. Being such a rare and unusual weapon type, emphasizing the Moon Blades would make it very easy for Mio to stand out on Smash's roster. They can be swung like normal, spun in place, infused with ether energy for non-physical damage, or even thrown. And the Zephyr-class fighting style emphasizes circular movement and quick, rapid strikes that are weak on their own but add up over time. Gives Mio a dance-like quality in combat, with an air of elegance that mesmerize onlookers as easily as it confound opponents. So what about alternate costumes? Mio's default is the default. While most of her outfit sits too far away from her head to be visible in her stock icon, we can differentiate them by changing the color of her hair braid. For example, her second alt gives it a darker shade of red, along with black clothes and a red coat to match Noah. Of course. Next is an orange braid and a color scheme inspired by her Agnian squad mate Tyon, though with the colors of the clothes and coat swapped so it doesn't feel too similar to a couple other alts. Then a metallic beige braid and black clothes with a faded blue coat, based on the girl with the gall herself, Senna. Following that is a light green braid and a more muted off-white coat, in memory of Mio's fallen fellow Offseer, Miyabi. Then a bright blue braid, faded orange clothes, and white coat, based on the casual attire of the Agnian queen, Nia. Her 7th alt trades that for a dark gray braid, black clothes again, a dark gray coat, and longer hair, all based on someone. Finally, Mio's last alt is a full model swap into her Agnian Offseer attire from the beginning of the game. A lot of variation here. What should we do for Mio's fighting style? Pulling inspiration from her weapon type and default class gives us something quite interesting. You see, the Zephyr class plays the role of dodge tank, drawing enemies' attention toward Mio, away from more vulnerable allies, and using high evasion and other means to make enemy attacks miss. Transferring that to a platform fighter gives us a hit-and-run style that gets up close to opponents, takes a swing or two, then retreats before they can retaliate. Mio uses this to keep opponents' attention squarely on her, poking at them from short and medium ranges while avoiding or blocking their attacks in turn. She can even force zoners into direct combat too, using certain tools to disrupt their zones of control, coercing them to fight her more aggressively. And can I coerce you to subscribe and turn notifications on so you don't have to rely on the algorithms telling you when a new video's out? For exact stats, not what you'd expect from a tank class. Instead of being big and heavy, Mio's an average size middleweight. Reflects her stat line in her game, where she has the 4th highest base HP of the 6 party members. While she can take stray hits okay, she wants to avoid taking damage entirely. Which she does well, because what self-respecting dodge tank doesn't have high mobility? Mio has the highest agility stat in her game, and we've transferred that into run speed just outside Ultimate's top 10 and the 6th fastest initial dash. Even her airspeed and fall speed are in the top 30, so while she likes playing grounded, she can jump and move in the air just fine. Her walk speed is below the top third though, and her recovery is merely above average. While Mio's mobility is great across the board, her offenses are more mixed. Attack speed is mostly great, with a few certain exceptions. The fast moves can be kind of backloaded though. Some have more middling startup in exchange for lower end lag. And Mio's damage output is not great. With the 2nd lowest attack stat in her game, Mio has to hit most opponents many more times than they hit her, while avoiding trading blows since she'll almost always lose those. Having a few strong finishers and multiple fallback options, averaging out at average knockout power, does help, but her forte is defense and drawing aggro, not offense. So how does Mio put all of that into motion? Her basic attacks may be, well, basic, but they are important. Mio's jab combo starts with a forward strike with her right hand, Moonblade included, then an outward swing of her right hand, then an outward swing of her left. Drawing from one of the Zephyr class auto attacks, the very quick first hit makes it great at disrupting enemy offense, but not for much damage. Mio's forward tilt has her lean forward and slash inward with her left hand Moonblade. Press A again to perform a follow-up slash with the right hand. A 2-input attack based on one of the Zephyr battle arts, it's a stable spacing tool with surprising reach since Mio leans forward during it. For her up tilt, Mio tosses her right hand Moonblade upward, where it spins in place for multiple hits. A lengthy anti-air slash platform pressurer you can combo off of, it's also pretty committal for a tilt, and the hitbox doesn't cover diagonals. Mio swings her right hand Moonblade around ground level for her down tilt. With an angle and attack arc kinda like Robin's down tilt, it deals minor vertical knockback that pops people up for low to mid % combos. Finishing the set is another battle art. Mio ducks low, lunges forward, and performs an outward double slash. The extra burst movement and low profile make it exceptional at slipping under enemy attacks and catching landings. But its damage is just okay, and it won't KO at any % that matters. But Mio can use more than just her Moonblades. Xenoblade 3 has a full-on job system with the ability to swap to other classes, and use Archive Earn from one class while in another. Mio's smash attacks pull from her friend Senna's hard-hitting Ogre class. For her forward smash, Mio swaps to the ogre's signature Comet Mallet, pivots back as she grips the giant hammer with both hands, then shoves it straight forward, releasing an ether shockwave at the end. While quite slow, this move can be a devastating punish when the time is right, and since Mio backs up a little at the start, it can juke around a poorly spaced attack and retaliate hard. Mio's up smash sets her sights above instead, as she swings the hammer upward like a golf club. Since it's much heavier than a golf club, the swing is slow again, but hits like a truck. It also covers in front of Mio in addition to above her, so it can call out telegraphed aerial approaches. And for her down smash, Mio grips the hammer and performs a lengthy circular swing. Hitting both sides twice, it's a big commitment, but do not underestimate what it can do to panicky rolls or dodges. Surprisingly decent startup too, making this her least situational, but most punishable, smash attack. Mio's aerials start with, a neutral air where she spins horizontally with arms outstretched, reminiscent of Nia's third twin ring auto attack from Xenoblade 2? Where'd she learn that? A two-hit move that covers in front and behind her, it has surprisingly quick startup and sets up combos, but its damage is pretty meh on its own, and it takes a while to animate. Mio's forward air is a variant of Butterfly Blade where she reaches further forward, like how Nia does it. Both hits of this one happen off one button press, with the first aimed slightly downward and the second slightly upward. The better vertical reach comes with the drawback of being slower overall. Back air has Mio bring her arms up and perform a quick downward slash behind her with both rings at once. Kind of like Rex's version of wide slash? Where'd she learn that? A rare non-multi-hit in Mio's kit, it's focused, fairly quick, and with good knockback growth that makes it one of her best finishers. Inspired by her dance-like movements, Mio's up air does something fancy. A full backflip kick, followed by an overhead ring slash as she comes back around. Kinda like a narrower ZSS up air with an extra second part, its two hits and fairly fast startup can juggle foes and take stocks at higher percents. But since its animation is so long, attempting a juggle is a surprisingly big commitment. And Mio's down air, wait, what? She brings out the Comet Mallet again, activates a double-sided alt mode, and slams it down beneath her. Has very slow startup, shocker, but it's a powerful spike if it manages to hit. These ogre arts can help offset Mio's damage output, but only if used right. How about her grab game? Mio's grab animations disengage the Moonblade in her left hand and try to grapple someone, with average-ish frame data for a weapon user, except for a slightly faster than usual pivot grab. And when Mio does get a hold of someone, she swaps to another weapon, the mentally controlled Mondo spell tags from Tyon's Tactician class. Her pummel simply directs one of the Mondo to strike her opponent, on the faster but weaker side animation-wise. And her throws take full advantage of this unconventional weapon. Mio's forward throw directs the Mondo into a paper wave that pushes her opponent away. A multi-hit, no surprise, that drags foes a dash length away before the knockback kicks in. Mio's back throw directs the Mondo to carry the opponent behind her, form a ring shape, and violently repel them as a viable kill throw. Up throw forms the Mondo into a sphere above her, opponent in tow, dealing multiple hits before expelling them upward. Doesn't heal anyone, but it is a combo throw up through 50%. And Mio's down throw forms the Mondo into another ring shape, but unlike its source animation, it faces downward and surrounds the opponent before letting loose a point-blank ether blast. Doesn't inflict sleep, because that would be broken, but the ether hit does make it Mio's highest damaging throw. Finally, what do her taunts look like? Mio's up taunt has her gaze forward, bring one hand to her chest, then sigh and say, so be it. She'd prefer not to fight, but if necessary, she will. Side taunt has Mio take a more aggressive stance, ready both Moonblades, and say, this is the decider, a line pulled from her chain attacks. And her down taunt? Mio dismisses her blade, pulls out her flute, and starts to play. If left alone, she plays the abridged version of the Agni and Offseer's song for the longest taunt in the game. Perfect for sending off a buddy who did something stupid and lost a stock for it. Mio's specials have a little something extra. To best capture the feel of combat in Xenoblade 3, I've incorporated a version of the arts palette. Each of the 4 battle art icons on Mio's UI represent one of her specials, with meters that surround their perimeters and build up a little each time you inflict damage on an opponent. Unlike in Xenoblade 3, you can still use Mio's specials if the corresponding art isn't charged, resetting the meter if you do so, but waiting until it is ready gets you a stronger version. A key part of playing as Mio would be keeping pressure on your opponent to keep building damage and maintain access to her upgraded arts. But you see that larger icon? That's Mio's talent art, and it's tied to her neutral special. This icon's meter builds when you play the role of defender and shield or dodge enemy attacks, or connect with other enhanced specials. And it doesn't empty if you use the move early, which matters a lot, because it's actually 2 moves in one. By default, Mio infuses her Moonblades with ether and quickly throws one of them in a 3-dimensional horizontal loop forward, striking at a specific distance around a 1.5 length ahead. Anyone struck by the ring takes decent damage, as well as minor knockback that sends them toward Mio, forcing them into more direct combat whether they want to or not. You can even press B a second time to throw the other ring for a second hit, though with added end lag. But if her talent art is ready, Mio instead uses a move exclusive to her, throwing both Moonblades at once as they spiral around her. This deals multiple hits on both sides that pull opponents in, leading to a final burst of ether with powerful knockback. Mio's neutral special is 2 projectile attacks in one that draw enemy aggression toward her. Gemini Strike's precise hitboxes are ill-suited for actual zoning, but they're great for quickly poking at most opponents from beyond their range. Dominion Flower forgoes that for a big horizontal area attack that doubles as another go-to finisher. They aren't without drawbacks though. Gemini Strike's precise placement is helpless if an opponent slips past it, and while Dominion Flower lacks that problem, it's a longer animation liable to get baited out and punished. That's the complicated one out of the way. How do the rest of Mio's specials work? Next is her side special, where she's not done pulling from other classes. Cannonball is another Ogre class art, and it'll help Mio be an even better zone breaker. On use, Mio swaps to the Comet Mallet and immediately retracts its handle, activating another alt mode. Grabbing the now vaguely spherical hammerhead, she winds up and flings it underhand, rolling it like a bowling ball. The hammer travels along the ground at a fairly fast speed, obeying gravity if it falls off something. When it collides with an enemy, shield, or obstruction, it explodes in a hard-hitting blast of green ether, but it can also take a hit or two. The hammer has about 15 HP, letting it plow right through any attacks that aren't strong enough to destroy it prematurely. And when enhanced, its normally slow and telegraphed startup gets several frames faster, the hammer rolls faster too, and it can tank even more damage. Cannonball is a unique anti-zoning projectile built to trample through errant enemy projectiles or traps and hit the enemy who threw them out. Like with Gemini Strike, it's too flawed to be an actual zoning tool, in this case from being slow and laggy. Instead, it can force campier foes to deal with Mio more directly instead of staying away. It's also a good backup kill move / edgeguard, though it works best as a mix-up and when grounded. If pulled out in midair, it travels slower and doesn't go as far. Up special is next. Which art does Mio lean on here? A pretty reasonable one. Another Zephyr class art, this one animates in a way we can adapt into a recovery move. Mio starts it by performing a diagonal rising slash with both Moonblades as she leaps upward, dealing knockback that pulls opponents caught by the attack up with her. At the apex of the jump, she spins back around and performs a second slash, this one horizontally with both Moonblades at once and with enough knockback to send foes away. Sounds simple on paper, and it kind of is, but if its corresponding meter is filled, it changes a little. Instead of a single hit at the start, Mio now spins like a tornado on the way up, dealing multiple hits with a minor suction effect that pulls in anyone immediately next to her, rising up higher than normal, and leading to a final hit with boosted knockback that makes it too a potential finisher. Air Fang is a textbook Dragon Punch type up special with an extra quirk perfect for someone who wants to be directly in the fray. While its default recovery distance is just okay, which does make Mio a bit vulnerable to edge guards, it compensates with its utility as an attack. Comes out fast enough to be a legit punish out of shield for hitting anyone who is too careless about aggroing you. Just don't get too trigger happy or you'll get punished instead. Alright, you've probably figured out Mio's down special is a tactician art, but I bet you didn't expect... Okay, maybe you did if you watched Noah's video. Hazy Figure is a support move in Xenoblade 3, granting an evasion rate buff to any party member who stays within its area of effect. How do we interpret that in a platform fighter? Pretty simple actually. Mio swaps to the Mondo and directs them into a wide ring shape around her that deals scratch damage to opponents. But if she's standing on the ground or a platform, the Mondo generate a ring of ether a little over a platform length in size that matches Mio's player color. For the next 12 seconds or so, as long as Mio stays within the ring, or up to a full hop height above it, her mobility gets a modest but noticeable boost. If you wait until its meter is charged first, the ring extends further and lasts a few seconds longer, giving you more room and more time to use the enhanced speed. And you know how this is a team support move in Xenoblade 3? Well, if Mio has any teammates, they benefit from it too. A weaker speed boost than Mio herself gets, but helpful nonetheless. Hazy Figure is a rare area of effect buff that further augments Mio's evasive yet aggressive playstyle as long as she stays nearby, while making her a better team player too. Strategic placement is key. Set it somewhere you expect to move in and out of a lot, or at a choke point an enemy likes using in neutral situations so you can get through the area faster. Make it count though, because you can't reposition the ring once it's active, and once it goes away, there's a cooldown of several seconds before you can place another. All that's left is Mio's final smash. We have a few options to choose here, and the one I went with uses something I had to include somewhere. Powered up by the Smash Ball, Mio summons Noah to her side, and the two interlink into their fused Ouroboros form with Mio at the helm, brandishing a stronger pair of Moonblades and performing a spinning slash forward. If it hits anyone, all enemies in a large surrounding area are immediately stunned, as Mio directs the entity's hand upward, summoning a countless number of glowing ether rings that surround them on all sides. Then suddenly, rays of ether fire from each ring in a rapid chain reaction, scouring the trapped foes with a barrage of attacks they're powerless to evade. Then Mio teleports the Ouroboros directly above and delivers a decisive final strike straight down that sends anyone in range flying away. And after all the punishment they took, it's probably to their deaths. Their fate was sealed when they rose against her. This is how Mio could fight in Smash. A soldier forced into an eternal war who hoped in vain to use what little time she had left to save everyone, until she and 5 others were given a chance to alter their fates and accomplish just that. Skilled with an unusual weapon, and 2 others from her allies, she draws enemy attention toward herself and away from those she cares about. She'd do anything to ensure they survive, as long as her flame still flickers. Mio fights using high mobility and disruptive attacks to draw aggro and force opponents to play to her rhythm. Multiple zone-breaking tools let her sabotage attempts to keep her out, forcing zoners into direct combat too. And her tank role and speed support makes her a great team player, working perfectly with someone who can flank distracted foes with large, high-damaging attacks. Hey, I know who could do that. However, Mio's damage output is notably low, forcing her to work harder to keep pace and avoid trading hits. Short disjoints and merely okay hitboxes make her footsies oddly vulnerable for a fighter so focused on neutral exchanges, and her high-commitment aerials, among other things, make her advantage state notably flawed, having to work harder here too to keep the upper hand. And so, we've come full circle. Promised I'd get to both Noah and Mio in due time. Mio herself doesn't get speculated on as much, but her moveset potential is just as high as Noah's is. To keep her design from getting too cluttered, I used her Zephyr class as the baseline, tried to carry the spirit of its dodge tank playstyle, then used Senna and Tyon's arts to supplement it. Since Noah's using the other Kevis characters to augment his own moveset, it makes a nice parallel. Which is one of many ways I tried to make them feel like counterparts. Did you catch how many lines in this video match ones in Noah's? I also kept the structure of their movesets similar, while still varying things when it made sense, like Mio using Tyon's arts for her throws instead of aerials. Helps that the way Agnian arts charge by landing basic attacks naturally pushes Mio toward fighting more proactively like a tank class should, so she's discouraged from playing keep away despite being so fast. Funny how many challengers I've covered this year have been from big RPGs. Goes to show how many interesting main characters they add to the barrel of Smash candidates as it fills back up over time. If you're a fan of the genre, be sure to check out the others, especially Noah's now that you've almost finished this one. But first, special thanks for this video to the following, especially my patrons for their continued support. And now, it's their turn to do their thing. Anyone currently supporting me on Patreon can vote on which of these 3 characters gets a full Smash design next. Hey, don't see that one brought up often. So, until next time, this goodbye is not the end.